All right, here's our little red Dodge that people have been asking about an update on. We pulled the alternator out on it the other day. It had been diagnosed by somebody else, and they diagnosed an alternator. I told them, you know what, they have computer problems as well. Might not be the alternator. This is going to be a quick video. So we ordered a computer. It hasn't come yet, and I said, you know what, let me do some more testing to make sure it's not something else. So I cleaned up some of the wiring here, some of the connections, and I figured, well, you know what, I can get it started with the jump back. So I was here with my big truck, and I put my jumper cables on. I couldn't get it started, and I thought maybe there's not a good connection to the batteries in my truck. So I brought my jump pack back today. I just got it back from a friend. Tried jumping it, and it wouldn't start. It sounded like it might have had a starter issue. So I'm like, well, we're probably going down the wrong road. I started to diagnose it, and I put my codes in, my code reader in, pulled up a few things like low battery voltage, nothing to be concerned about. And I said, you know what, it sounds like that starter's not engaging. And he said it died while it was running, and this has been a pretty common issue I've seen a few times over the past couple of weeks. So I went ahead and put a big old 1/2 inch bar down there on the crankshaft, if you can see it. That's the end of it there. I loosened up this belt just to make sure it wasn't an accessory that was seized, and I cannot get this engine to turn at all. So you can see here, my hand's on it, and I'm putting all my weight on this, and I cannot get it to spin. And in fact, I'm hurting my hand pushing down so hard on it. So we have a seized engine here, so that's a bit unfortunate, and that's the update. It's not the alternator after all. It's in fact much worse. So this is the Roadside Rescue YouTube channel. I'm Ernest. Here's your update. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next episode. All right, just a little update here. I talked to him. We couldn't figure out why it would have seized up. I checked the oil and the coolant. They were both fine. So I asked him to make sure that he hadn't topped the oil off when he got home or something. He said he hadn't. Was just a little baffled. And the last thing I threw out there, I was like, well, you know, did it ever sound like a diesel? That's the most common thing people say to me. Well, my car sounds like a diesel. And, you know, it's rod knocking if they say that. So I asked him, I was like, it never sounded like a diesel, or it was never knocking. He said, well, right before I pulled over, he's like, the reason I pulled over is because it was knocking and making some sound. I pulled over and then it died and wouldn't come back on. So it sounds like he spun a bearing and maybe had driven on it without noticing for a good little bit. It doesn't take long, you know, a couple minutes that can seize it up. So, which I've heard of people driving it for a few months with a rod knock as well. And but personally, I had it happen in one of my trucks where I drove from, I probably made it about 20 minutes back home. I was just going to rebuild the engine in my truck because I knew it spun a bearing. So I made it home about 20 minutes, and by that point it was almost seized up. I mean, there was no power, full throttle, just in first gear trying to get it to crawl. So sounds like that's what happened. He spun a bearing and seized the engine up. So just unfortunate, happens sometimes. And that's the update. So it's not an alternator, much worse in this case, and there you have it.